Hi, this is Shay with the Social Freedom Tribe. I want to do a quick video on how there are actually dangers with being too zoomed in. I talked about, in other videos, I talked about just being like zoomed into an interaction and getting into a flow state without like that whole zooming out, like what am I doing kind of thing, or like going through a to-do list and zooming into the to-do list and like not breaking your flow state by like zooming out and like what am I supposed to do next kind of things. But there are some dangers in being that zoomed in, focused onto the task. There's like advantages where we're in a highly influential state where we're influencing others and ourselves. And there's also a way that when we open ourselves up to this kind of influence, like we're so zoomed into the task that we no longer have that skeptic part of ourselves. There's a PDF called The Forbidden Keys of Persuasion. What it talks about is basically it gives an experiment or thought experiment saying, what if you had this like button and you go to a movie theater and your job is as soon as you like are completely zoomed in 100%, all of your attention is completely into the movie, press the button. You will find that you will never press the button because if all of your attention is on the movie, you have no spare attention to press the button. So it's kind of like, think about it like the button, like your skeptic mind or your zoomed outness of like, I'm zoomed in and there's nothing that says, hey, we should zoom out and like actually consider what they're saying or something like that. So what ends up happening is, like when you're completely zoomed in, you can influence people because you can like bring them also zoomed in and you can like all influence each other. And you'll see some crazy things with that because you'll actually see people that would originally disagree with the things that you were saying. You're seeing them do the things that you talked about, but when you ask them about it, they kind of like talk about what they're doing as if it was their idea, even though they actually did hear it from you. So it's a really fascinating thing. And it gets pretty scary because then what ends up happening is you start remembering, oh yeah, TV and movies make me zoomed in. In video games and comics or whatever, there's so many different things that could make us completely 100% zoomed in. And when we're that zoomed in, the skeptic mind is off. Then we're just highly able to be influenced. And I see this all the time where well, first of all, when I talk to women, I get a lot of like, why are guys like so weird? Like, why are 95% of guys just like doing like weird things? And I think what's happening is basically guys are getting zoomed into movies and women, but like everyone really, when people are getting zoomed into these movies and these television shows, what ends up happening is little little things happen in the acting and they just get completely like no filters uh, added to the story of the mind, or like it just gets like beliefs get completely added with no filters. So what ends up happening is like a guy will be shy and he'll stutter on his words and he'll be like, I've loved you for years, and he'll like do this creepy thing that would have gotten him arrested in real life. But because this is a show where these are paid actresses and paid actors, the actress responds with like, "Wow, I love you. Thank you for loving me." And I mean that may or may not work in real life, but the point is the fact that it's guaranteed to work in a movie because people are paid to follow a script. So the actress is paid to respond that way. And what ends up happening is that when we're in this completely 100% zoomed in thing, we're like, got it. When I do this, this is what happens. Got it. When I do this, this is what happens. And in movies and television shows, they might get it like really close to reality, but it's still a human production or human reproduction of reality. And what ends up happening is that movies and television shows kind of play into the beliefs that people already have. So first of all, it like kind of like manipulates their beliefs to believe that certain things work when they actually don't, and like they're bought into these beliefs that when you just love one person, you got to like focus on them for years, and even if they say, hey, no, let's just be friends, keep focusing on them and keep following them and keep stalking them, and eventually they'll love you, you know, like call them 10 years after high school and like say I've changed, and they'll be like, oh, you changed. You know, like little things like this. Maybe I'm going too far overboard. Maybe movies don't even go that far to the realm. But what I see is like even slightly like movies just do things that really wouldn't work in real life. And people are watching these things completely 100% zoomed in, no filters being added to their beliefs, and they just start changing in like creepy ways. And it's really unfortunate to see. And I think movies and television shows and video games actually do realize that people are already brainwashed, and they kind of realize that if they actually bring out a movie that's actually close to reality, they will get shamed for it, and like it won't make any money. And I believe like I'm pretty sure movies have already even tried that. Like, oh, let's actually build a realistic movie of like a guy getting rejected because he was needy, and then he's like just going out working on himself and blah blah blah. Like I imagine like those movies have tried and they just like have gotten nowhere because they're like, yeah, the masses just won't like this, or they just got shot down and shamed. So I think movies and television shows kind of like already realize, okay, these are the beliefs that people have. They're really like don't actually match reality. So let's build a movie that just like matches these beliefs because we want money. We want to get money. We don't want to build something that doesn't get views or doesn't sell. So they build these like, first of all, they build these things that are like, how do you get somebody to zoom in? You do flashing lights. You do a lot of movement. You do a lot of action. You do a lot of like voice stuff and emotional like. You do a lot of stuff happening, drama and just stuff was like, whoa, I'm so zoomed in, and you go after how do I get that person to just release more dopamine and more dopamine and more of these like oxytocin like chemicals in their brain, and the person's just like blah, blah. I mean, think about drugs. Like, basically, what drugs do is they just like, hey, release more dopamine. Dopamine is the focusing happiness chemical, and oxytocin is like the cuddly love one, and there's serotonin, which is kind of like mood control. You feel good. MDMA like makes you release a ton of like oxytocin and serotonin. I believe. I'm not actually even sure, but there's like all these drugs. Like what they're doing is like they're not like, okay, now you're on cocaine. It's like you take the cocaine and the cocaine does something to your brain so that you feel like you have more dopamine. I've heard that it like blocks the receptors so that the dopamine just stays there, or something that happens. But basically, like if I were to just simplify it, it's just like think about it like you take this drug, now you have more dopamine, or now you have more serotonin, or now you have more oxytocin, or now you have more norepinephrine, and you get these chemicals and they feel good. So like what ends up happening is you feel good, so now you're rewarded for doing that, and you want more of that drug. That's where addiction comes. But what television does is it does the same thing. So it's like no different from a drug, because television is like flash, bam, 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 and then you're just like, whoa, and you get hit, and your brain just starts releasing dopamine. So what, like the media and what television shows and all these things just start realizing like, okay, let's build something that releases more dopamine. And they're getting better about it. I've actually heard, I haven't watched movies in forever, but I've heard that Disney movies have like started to change, and they're just like more about like fast changes and just like all this stuff going on just to like keep up with all the ADD people that are now, because like everybody's like, we're getting better and better at just like flashing lights and televisions everywhere and all these things just like holding our attention, like grabbing our attention and influencing us and saying, drink beer, like drink this kind of beer, you'll be happy, like stuff like that. When we're in a highly zoomed in state where we'll just take anything that is offered to us, like, oh, and I've seen scary things of this happening. Like I quit television and movies and all that stuff for a long time, and then I went to a Super Bowl party, and I kind of like saw these, like I was trying to like sit not facing the TV while everyone was facing the TV, so like and everyone was just like drinking and like smoking and like doing things just to like kind of like amp up their emotional selves to like have fun. And then when the TV was on and like something was like flashing and blah blah blah, then it was just like and I was watching it happen, and it was kind of like synchronistic, and it almost seemed like time passed and nobody actually realized that time had passed. Like they're just normal interactions, flashing stuff, and then from here to here in time, they're just gone. And then when they wake up after it's gone, like the way they were talking was like, whoa, I can tell their beliefs have changed. Like just they're different. Like the person that didn't actually like football, like all of a sudden there's like this emotional story commercial that happens, and after it they're like, I'm rooting for that guy now. Like I love football, and it's really fascinating to me. And I see this all the time. And when people like get really zoomed in, like then they come out and like they're suddenly wanting some kind of candy or something that's just like these commercials have gotten really good at making people zoomed in and like hit them with some kind of chemical. They get when they finally zoom out, they're a different person. They have different beliefs. And like I believe in this kind of beer or this kind of candy or whatever it is, and it's really unfortunate. We can take advantage of that with just like our own selves. Like we could be in this zoomed in flow state and bring people into a zoomed in flow state. And when we do that, we can like be highly influenced by like others and by reality. Meaning like we can like be really influenced in a way that we're like trying different things, and then we see like the reactions of people. Got it. When I say this, this person gets defensive, and we can like get changed that way. We can also like hear beliefs, and it can be like added to us like pretty fast. And the same way with the others, like we can say our beliefs, and those beliefs can get added pretty fast to others. So you can be like highly influential both ways with this whole flow state, like zoomed inness, where we bring other people zoomed in, and then yeah, I mean, there's ways of taking advantage of that from the marketing standpoint, where people will make others zoomed in. They'll do flashing lights or whatever to like make them zoomed in and like change their beliefs about some kind of branding. I'm reading Stealing Fire by Stephen Kotler and Jamie Wheal, and they're talking about that, where where they found out actually that the part of the brain that like flashes when talking about spirituality or religion or stuff like that also flashes. Those same parts of the brain flash when talking about strong brands that they love. And so it's kind of like this belief religion thing where like once we're like zoomed in and like really in this mystic place, where we're just in like flow, we can be highly influenced. And Jamie Wheal, I think, has a video on Facebook or something like that where he's like, stay away from the mall or something like that when you're in a flow state, because like everything will look good. And I find that really interesting. And yeah, I've noticed that just guys, mostly guys, are just doing really weird things with really weird beliefs when it comes to dating. And I blame porn and television and movies because, like, I mean, it's I understand like the whole like I just want to like relax and like stuff like that, but just kind of realize that when we're zoomed in, our beliefs will change. These are paid actresses that are paid to react in the way that they do to other males, other paid acting males, and it's not actually real. It's just they're paid to like respond that way. And we are in a zoomed in place where that is just being added with no filters, and we're going through life like there's a way that like humans are pattern recognizers. So if we like cut all this stuff out and we just like dive into reality, and we're constantly like trying different things and stuff like that, we will naturally find the patterns of like when I have this kind of energy, then people are defensive. When I have this, like it's like a soft versus like penetrative, like angry energy when I speak. And I can like find different patterns of like how I'm moving my hands, and like is this distracting or something like that. I can talk to people and kind of like start to get data points and like start putting together patterns. But that gets interrupted when I'm constantly watching TV, porn, and video games and movies, because those data points are just being added, no filters. And like if I only have 100 data points in reality, and if I have 9 million data points in all this fake reality, this paid actress reality, then this is going to override it, and my patterns are going to be like these weird beliefs that don't actually work in real life. So for me, like, I just choose to like take out all of those things. You don't actually have to do that, but just realize that, like, compartmentalize, like, where is this belief coming from, and just kind of like realize that when you're in this zoomed in state, you are highly influential, and marketers will take advantage of that. They know how to take advantage of that. They've tested it, and they've like really learned how to like manipulate somebody who's in a zoomed in state like that. The media does as well. Like media doesn't get paid to tell the truth. I mean, that's just, they don't get paid to tell the truth. They get paid when they get a lot of viewers, and they get paid even more if all those viewers are in an influential state where when they put out commercials, then they're more likely to buy from those commercials. So that's how they get paid. They don't get paid like, hey, every time you tell the truth and you help people, I'm going to give you $1 or something like that. They don't get paid that way. They get paid for amount of viewers, and they get paid for how influential they are when like the commercials come on, because then they could tell the people selling on the, like, hey, if you want to buy a commercial on us, we're going to put our viewers in, we're going to put our high amount of viewers into a highly influential state, and so your commercials will really work on our viewers. Like, so pay us more money to have a commercial with us. That's how they get paid. And so the way that happens, like the effects of that is basically they don't do things like, hey, here's how many planes actually successfully landed, and here's this one that like was the rare cause, 1 out of 1,000,000 that like didn't work out, and I'm not going to show you all these murders. I'm going to show you all these good things happening, and here's the actual stats of like how much better this year is in terms of crime than last year, and you'll see that like crime probably reduces. I mean, I heard like actually like we are actually doing better, but the way that like fear, and when it comes to politics, like whatever the media stands by, like they're going to like show like, here's the bad stuff about this president or whatever like that, like whatever like twist that they want to take on, like to influence the viewers, they'll take those and put them into a highly afraid state, because basically what is it that people are viewing media for? And they're not viewing it for the truth. Like that's just like a rationalization thought that they're having to like, oh, I can feel not guilty about watching media. But what they're really watching media for is the chemicals of like dopamine, norepinephrine. Their amygdala is just going off like super emotional, and be like, you gotta keep watching this thing that's telling you all the scary things that are happening. This is like, I mean, imagine that you have no TV, and somebody knocks on, like, you're just like chilling at your place, and just somebody knocks on the door and it's like, there's a scary thing that's happening right now, and like runs away. You're gonna want to know what that scary thing is, because your amygdala is just like, look for the scary things, like look for anything that's a threat. I mean, really, you're telling yourself, I wish there was just no threats around me, but then you're like specifically, like, you have a part of the brain that's like specifically look for anything that could be a threat. And you're hoping that you don't find anything that's a threat. You're hoping that it's like, that person was just like doing a joke and it was just a prank, and like actually everything is safe and nobody's being murdered or anything. But your amygdala is still like looking for things that are scary. So like everybody that's watching the news is like, man, I wish all these scary things weren't happening. It's just like, they're gonna keep happening. Like, there's just gonna be more and more people. They're gonna be able to find scary things that happen, or funny weird things that happen that just like hold your attention, and that's just gonna keep happening. You can keep like you just stop watching the news. I mean, do you really need to know about a murder that happens across the country that has nothing to do with you? I mean, you don't really like it's really not going to affect your life in any way. But your amygdala is telling you different. Like, no, you have to look for the threats. So, I mean, I feel like I'm gonna do so much more with a video on this whole zoomed inness and how we're being really manipulated when we're in this zoomed in state. But I think I should stop here because I think you guys get it. But like, just like look for all the things where, like, if you're on a very influential television show, try just as an experiment, just turning your back to the TV and then just watching your family, because you'll see that like them like interacting and then suddenly and then like when they zoom out, like suddenly they're saying things that whatever was happening on the television was making them believe. Like they're just like they're emotionally matched to what just happened, and like their beliefs are matched to what's just happened, and it's really scary. It's really terrifying. Anyways, hope this helps and have fun.